All right, I think we are live. What's going on, people? My name is Eric Hunley. I've just changed races because you know how we love the race swap. So right now, I'm playing Eric Hunley. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is what they do now, right? Snow White and everything. You know, it's okay. You know, as long as you don't go the other way. If it was a black guy, you'd go white, then you're racist. But if you go white and then you go black, it's an okay thing. So
my weekly resolution was not to get canceled, so I'm going to refrain from making jokes here.
I want to see a remake of the Ten Commandments, but do it right this time. You know?
Oh, how do you do it right? What's doing it right?
Well, you cast all white people because it's in the Middle East.
When they remake Braveheart, they're going to have to, they'll have to have some historical revisionism.
Oh my God! Well, it's funny because like even with the Snow White thing, I was watching Megyn Kelly and she was talking about the Snow White stuff, and it's just hilarious because don't forget they changed the dwarfs because somebody said the dwarfs it was offensive to say dwarfs, so now they changed them to like regular sized people and they're all diverse. But then that failed because they were like that doesn't make any sense. You know, when you got black dwarfs, Latino, it became like a multicultural magical people. Then they had to take them back to dwarfs because nobody was going to watch the movie if they. It's like, what are you guys doing? So
it's so interesting. I remember when they did the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and they didn't use little people like they did it in the Gene Wilder version. Mm-hmm. Everyone got offensive that they were using the same person and digitally manipulating them. And there was this whole culture or push for using people that are actually handicapped for the handicapped roles and whatever. Yeah. But now we don't want to. We're going to eliminate those job positions because it's somehow offensive to the people that you're eliminating the jobs for.
It's gotten obscenely crazy. What is wrong with being? I don't even know if the word is bad. What's wrong with being a midget, or a dwarf? What would be the problem with being that? And now they make it so that somehow there's something like wrong or shameful about being it, so they have to replace the dwarves with I don't know what a normal sized human is. It's all of this woke nonsense actually demonizes that which they purport to want to protect. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being a dwarf. It was written into the story for a reason. There's nothing inherently mocking about it. But to say now that there's something wrong with it, so we got to replace the dwarves with full-size people, regular-sized people. These were the new dwarfs before they kind of canceled the new dwarfs. So you had this one little guy who was, he's a dwarf. They kept one actual dwarf, but these are the rest of they call them the magical folk. Oh, that's great.
So you have this like, I don't know where, you got black people, you got Hispanic, like they just said, let's check all the boxes because we got 7 spaces, right? We can go boom, 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 hit every box.
Except the dwarves. I mean, this is the whole. It's nice you can have racial diversity among the dwarves, which were supposed to be the characters. It's crazy.
Like one of every kind. That line right there.
I demand on knowing the religious diversity of those dwarves. I mean, it's one thing for ethnic diversity, but if we got to go and then. No, I'll stop my joke there.
So Andrea, since we got Andrea here, Andrea's been causing a mess on Twitter because usually I don't check my Twitter timeline, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And she said the magic words, Trevor Bauer. And I was like, Trevor Bauer, and she has just found the case. But I'm going to tease this for you guys. I'm going to tease it for you. I'm going to just play the opening to this video, and it will tease you exactly what's going on in the Trevor Bauer case. And then I'm going to throw it to Andrea for her to explain to us what she's read and her findings from this case, because this case it's insane. It is insane. It's Johnny Depp 2.0 again, but it is what it is. Here we go. Trevor Bauer.
Former Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer is speaking out after settling a lawsuit with a woman who accused him of sexual assault. Bauer released this video today claiming that he has evidence his accuser set him up and was trying to take his money.
Trevor says everything was completely consensual. He also released these text messages that came out in court indicating that you had planned the whole thing out. So I want to read some of these texts from you to a friend between the two of you before you met Trevor, this one. Star pitcher for the Dodgers. Okay. Victim is an interesting choice of words. I'm going to allow you a chance to explain yourself. But after you agreed to meet, you asked your friend what you should steal. Your friend answered his money. He says, another one from you to a friend, I'm going to his house Wednesday. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. With a screenshot in which you told him, tryouts don't scare me, Bauer. Pick a day and I am there. Here's some more after you and Trevor met up. Net worth is $51 million, to which your friend responds, bitch, you better secure that bag. Your text, need daddy to choke me out, being an absolute whore to try to get $1 million. You say this wasn't a setup. How can you expect anyone to believe that?
Great
Oh
question.
my God, I want to hear those again.
The best part, Nate, you need to play her response to this because it's the biggest press secretary BS answer ever.
Well,
The way she starts off. She's like, it's a really good question you're asking me that.
Has the behavior panel done a breakdown of that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Dude, it's funny, as she's asking the questions, you can see her smile go from like, and then there was one thing in particular where she stopped smiling. She's blinking a lot. Oh, good question. And that's the preface to let me formulate my bullshit response. But good question. Holy cow.
Andrea has just found this case. So let me throw it to Andrea so she can tell us what's happening. What did you find out about the Trevor Bauer madness?
So, yeah, I mean, this case is wild. I'm a late arrival to it. Obviously, it's been going on since 2021. But so it caught my attention, of course, and Trevor Bauer put this video out on Twitter where he, highlights some of these text messages that she was sending, and also this video that she made in bed with him the morning after, supposedly all of these terrible things happened. And, and she's just like there, flawless, smirking for the camera. So I started to take a look because that didn't happen until after this civil case has already settled. So background is back in 2021, when Trevor Bauer has just signed like $100 million deal with the Dodgers, she makes this accusation of sexual abuse and goes to LA County Superior Court to get a protective order against him. So that protective order ends up going through a 4-day hearing. She testifies, there's experts that testify, and the DVRO ultimately gets denied. But this is, happening,
which is a big deal.
I don't know if it's exactly behind closed doors, but it's not getting a whole lot of publicity, at least that I saw at the time. So then what happens is after the DVRO gets thrown out, her lawyer is out continuing to make, claims. Oh, he brutalized her, things like that. So Trevor Bauer sues her and this lawyer for defamation and some other things, intentional interference with tort, stuff like with contract, stuff like that. So that case was then working its way through the federal court. It ultimately settled, and that's kind of what triggered this announcement that Trevor Bauer made that kind of then brought this whole case back into the limelight. So hearing that, I went to look at the federal case. It's in Pacer. Pacer's, easy to access stuff. And I see that, wow, they have filed all of this stuff from the DVRO proceeding as part of the federal case. So you can read the transcript, you can read the DVRO application, and just sort of see what was going on through this process. And let me tell you, it's wild. Okay, this transcript from this DVR hearing was riveting. Like I was having a very hard time putting it down. So many shades of.
Just one thing. Can you DVR? I'm assuming it's domestic violence, something other, right?
Domestic violence restraining order. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Yeah.
So she went to court basically saying, I need protection from Trevor Bauer. And so there's a series of continuances that happen going up to this hearing because Trevor Bauer has hired Sean Hawley. Okay. Now Sean Hawley is a freaking phenomenal lawyer. Okay. She's been around for a long time. She is aggressive. She knows what she's doing. And she immediately starts to notice, well, there's all of this stuff that is missing from the story. For example, she submits some medical records with her DVRO petition, but they're very selective. The records themselves refer to like other places that she's been, other examinations that she'd had, and so on and so forth. And then similarly, she has cherry picked some text messages or some of these Instagram DMs that she had with Trevor Bauer, but he's still got all of them, right? So he's got all the stuff that she didn't submit. And there is obviously some stuff in that is very, very devastating to her case. She is basically telling him, I want you to be more aggressive. I want it harder. I want you to choke me out. Like I want the violence. I want the pain, like telling him this is what I want you to do. So there's a series of continuances, as Sean Hawley is pointing out, like all this stuff is pretty critical and we need an opportunity to be able to get it. And she has, apparently deleted it off of her phone and tried to make it inaccessible. So the hearing itself, okay, she has the burden of proof on this petition, right? She walks into court, it's her petition, you're asking for relief, you're the one that has to show the court there is, a risk to me if you don't grant this order, I need this protection because of the potential threat to me. Well, they spend like a day and a half, in their case in chief, just trying desperately to defend these text messages that she has sent and just trying to like talk around them and offer these explanations that it's so shades of Amber Heard because we can read, okay, we have eyeballs, we can see what the words are, we understand what the plain meanings of these words are. But she will try to tell us, that actually, no, it's something completely different. Secure the bag. No, that doesn't mean what it obviously freaking means. Okay, secure the bag is just something that the person that she was talking to, their son would say that a lot. So they use that as an expression. Like, and she honestly expects us apparently to believe these types of explanations.
Andrea, two things. First of all, is it Andrea or Andrea?
It's Andrea.
Okay. Second thing. Not that people in the chat are asking for pictures. I don't want to see pictures. I'm a married man. Do you have any texts so we can actually see some of these texts?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, I'm picturing it's a metaphorical choking, which she was asking for.
Yeah.
No, actual. She was asking for an actual choking.
Well, Andrea, I was gonna, if I can just jump in too, Viva. Trevor Bauer actually put out a whole video on Twitter.
Oh, no, I saw that video.
Yeah, and the fact he was able to settle. And he said, no, I'm not signing an NDA. I'm getting to dump it all out there. And the fact that Lindsey Hill, actually still Lindsey Hill's a hoe. I'll say that. The fact she said, okay, fine, I'll agree to that term says a lot that they realize how screwed they are, that he gets to still go out there and clear the air and dump all this evidence out. So, yeah, Lindsey Hill took a beating in court over all this at the end of the day.
Yeah, it did not go well for her. She did have some victories in federal court. I think she got handed a little bit of a gift in this ruling that the federal court had looked at that DVRO hearing. Let me back up. After Trevor Bauer sues her for defamation, she countersues him for the sexual assault. Trevor Bauer says, wait a minute, we already adjudicated that in the DVRO hearing. Okay. The ruling on the DVRO hearing is absolutely devastating to Lindsey Hill. Okay. The judge is saying explicitly, you told him you wanted this. You told him you wanted that. We're supposed to believe women when they say no. Why should we not believe them when they say yes? Like what on earth is he supposed to think? Her whole case was based on this idea that, well, she's saying these things to try to give him what he wants and to try to appease him. But, deep down inside, that's not really what she wanted. And, the judge, I think, is understandably looking at that as, well, what the hell is he supposed to do with that? He doesn't know what your internal process is. That's a you problem, not a him problem. There was the fact that she was alleging that the reason she needed this protective order in the first place was because he was constantly contacting her and trying to reach out. And she was terrified he was going to, show up at her house and stuff. And then the story, that comes out at trial is, well, no, actually, like, you're the one who is constantly trying to get in contact with him. You're telling him stuff that he wouldn't even know if you hadn't volunteered it. This is all very inconsistent with the story that she had painted for the court. in the initial DVRO application. So the judge just absolutely tears her a new one on all of this stuff. But the federal court gives her this kind of gift decision saying, well, we don't think that the superior court actually ruled that there wasn't an assault. The judge could have denied the DVRO just on the basis that, because you didn't actually need protection from him. He wasn't trying to get in contact with you at all. It was you that was initiating that. He hadn't done anything for like over a month at the time that she applied. So therefore, it wasn't necessarily adjudicated in the DVRO case. Therefore, the federal claim can go forward. So that was a win that she got in the federal court. And frankly, I think that might be what had precipitated this settlement in the first place. I would think that Trevor Bauer expected this is going to be pretty easy. We can take care of this counterclaim, then we can really lean on her, on the defamation stuff, maybe force a, retraction or something like that. But that didn't turn out to be the case. So then they were going to, get stuck in the mill of discovery and all that stuff. It's going to be a much bigger hassle than you anticipate. So ultimately, they did end up settling this case. But wow, yeah, they really did get these facts out and this information out and this evidence on a level that I had not seen it before.
When was the DVRO filed? I'm wondering if it was pre or post Depp v. Heard trial.
It was February of 2021. It was right as things were just about to get started in that trial.
Okay.
And the hearing itself was after. The hearing itself was in like August, I think. So yeah, Depp v. Heard actually kind of happened in the interim there.
Okay.
Lindsey Hill actually did an interview where she comes out after this information came out. After the settlement, she did this interview where this interviewer, Gonzalez, she actually presses her on the evidence from the court case. So here's when she's pressed about the video.
Interesting video of you in his bed. Watch.
In August of 2021, Lindsey Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsey Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us.
Lindsey, I think there are a lot of sexual assault survivors who would say you don't look traumatized there and you don't look beaten. And this is allegedly after you say that he brutally attacked you.
Pause it there for a second.
Bruises all over your body. You had bruises all over your face. I don't see any bruises there. And I certainly don't see a woman who's just been traumatized by something horrible.
All right. Now she's going to answer, but go, Viva, go.
Look at the interviewer's body language right now.
Oh yeah.
Like this, like you are a effing lying bee. Go ahead and go, like closed arms. Okay, sorry, just wanted to note that.
No, she's about to. She wants to give it to her. Here we go. What do you think she's gonna say? Because this is like so damning. But here it is.
I personally believe that U.S. Americans. Okay, that's.
Context.
Again, super valid. I think that I woke up that morning and the best way to explain that video is I hadn't seen my entire body yet. I had no idea what had happened considering, I was unconscious for most of it. I had no idea what had happened to my full body.
But if it was that severe, wouldn't you already feel pain? Wouldn't you already have bruises on your face? I mean, you say that he punched you in the face, but where are the bruises?
They cut the video.
That was such BS. Oh my God. Okay, so if you wake up having no knowledge of what happened the night before, let's assume that that's true for the sake of argument. The first thing is to take a video of yourself and smirking with the guy that you don't remember doing anything with, and post it on whatever social media platform.
It's such obvious bullshit, and not to like, I don't know what an abuser behaves like, but did I see Trevor Bauer sleeping with like little iPads on? Like that's after a night of evil that you put on the eye thing and sleep like that. But the moral of the story, people, if you don't know who you're having sex with, you don't know who you're having sex with. And I would not want to be single or dating in this day and age, but my goodness, it's risky.
Here's the rest of it. Sorry about that.
That's it.
I was unconscious for most of it. I had no idea what had happened to my full body.
But if
during
it was that severe, wouldn't you already feel pain? Wouldn't you already have bruises on your face? I mean, you say that he punched you in the face, but where are the bruises?
Yeah, so that's something that has not, been publicly released, or he won't talk about. But over and over again in this process, we have handed him pictures that were taken between 20 and 30 minutes right after that video was taken of the bruising starting to develop.
You could show us the pictures, Lindsay. You can always show them to us.
Well, she did. She put them with her DVRO petition, and Amber Heard they're like bright orange and super modified.
And no, I've seen them, and that's why it's like you're not showing them anywhere else. You're like, well, where are they, Lindsay?
They're in that interview though, aren't they? I think based on the thumbnail.
Remember. Oh.
Let me see. I'm going to scroll along this thing.
This is 16-minute one. I have not seen the full
of the scratching, and it has been time and time again verified through metadata. It was a matter of being in the correct lighting, the spacing to take the right thing. And another difference is, iPhone camera versus a Snapchat recording and things like that. So there is solid bulletproof evidence of those bruising marks, scratches, things that were provided to their team from day one.
So she's got some. That's the evidence was solid.
Yes, that means you settled for nothing.
Mountains of it.
Yes. What was the settlement, if I can ask? Was there any money?
She got nothing.
She got $300,000.
She got $300,000 from her own insurance company.
Yeah. So
I don't know how she conned the insurance company to give her the $300,000. I don't know how.
They just paid the attorney fees, is what I would.
I was going to say cheaper than litigation costs.
Yep.
What's her first name again? What's Hill's first name?
Lindsey Hill.
Yeah, but Trevor Bauer didn't pay a dime. He didn't have to make any. He got the right to publicly talk about it. I mean, he walked away. And Lindsey says, well, I'm happy, even though I didn't get anything. It was about making sure the world knew.
Yeah.
But now it's funny because that guy, he was cut from his his contract was destroyed from the MLB. So he's got and he was a Cy Young Award winner. For those of you who don't know this is one of the best pictures in baseball before this thing happened. So he was
in the prime. He was on the razor's edge of his prime.
Yeah. Has anyone done a side-by-side comparison of Amber Heard to Lindsey Hill? Because the physical similarities are striking. I'm drawing some conclusions. I'm joking.
Is she other than a guy or a woman who slept with a baseball player? Does she do anything else?
She slept with multiple baseball players. Yeah, that's what she does.
He's not the first one. He's not the first one.
She's a professional hoe.
But it's funny because you got MLB, but then you have what's his name, Matt Ariza case, and that's exactly the same thing. Here's just a quick glimpse of what's going on with Matt Ariza, because the one thing about the Matt Ariza case is that the news media, like the sports news media, had to eat crow because they were all saying he was guilty, and it was like, oh, he's not guilty. He wasn't even there. So that was another wild one. This is Matt Ariza and his issues.
We begin tonight with breaking news. The Buffalo Bills' new punter is named in a lawsuit accusing him and two other men of gang. Good evening, everyone. Jackie is off tonight. The accuser suit says it happened while Matt Ariza was a college football player last year.
And that suit was filed hours ago in a county court in California.
Ariza joined the NFL in April, a 6th-round draft pick. The Bills admit to learning about the allegations in July. He was dropped by the team after the lawsuit went public. Ariza's accuser wonders why his career even got that far.
I can't put into words how upsetting it was when I've been facing the consequences for his actions.
No criminal charges have been filed.
Several months later.
Former San Diego State and Buffalo Bills punter Matt Ariza says his life is on hold after allegations of and a civil lawsuit was filed against him. Ariza has always denied his involvement in that alleged at a 2021 party, and now new evidence from prosecutors show he left the party an hour before the assault happened.
Came back up again recently because of this 220-page transcript in which prosecutors explained to the alleged victim that Ariza had left the party at which the alleged gang occurred an hour before it happened. So that has created a firestorm of its own.
Yeah, right.
This guy got railroaded.
Right.
This guy shouldn't have been cut.
Yeah.
This guy should still be in the NFL.
23-year-old San Diego State football star Matt Ariza had the world and the NFL at his fingertips. Nicknamed the punt god, Ariza was drafted in the 6th round by the Buffalo Bills in 2022. But that all came crashing down when he was accused in the gang of a 17-year-old girl at an SDSU house party. Though these were just allegations, the Bills cut him from the team just days later. Prosecutors in the case declined to press charges. Matt was never charged. A series of video clips of the alleged game do not show Ariza, as he was not even present during the incident. But apparently, none of that matters. Not the evidence, not the lack thereof, nothing. Because in this era of cancel culture and believe all women, an accusation is enough to ruin someone, their life, and their future.
So that's it. Poor Matt
Is there?
Ariza.
I partly blame the Bills, and not just them, but others for jumping on this and like terminating people and terminating contracts just for the allegation. Not even a charge, not a conviction, not an outcome of a
That's
civil
because
suit.
you're supporting it then. You're supporting it then, David. That's the problem.
Really, you're supporting it by saying, well, it's too soon to tell. Let's have the facts bear out the situation.
That's what it is.
He wasn't even there.
The problem with this one. Problem with this one
she was playing group sports with an entirely other group of people, and it's like, and I'm sure that it was all against her will. She wasn't just a big old hoe.
I think who's making Joe, it's your background, man. Something's going on with your background. There you go. That's better.
It sounds like something is.
What I was going to say is this is not even a case of where keeping your schmeckel in your pants would have kept you out of trouble, because it's a whole cloth accusation. Don't go to house parties, people. Listen to what I say. Keep your penis in your pants. Stay home after 8 o'clock. Don't have dinner alone with other people of the opposite gender. I'm joking.
The Billy Graham rule's for real.
There's a reason why I go to my office, I go to my home, and I go to my treehouse.
Get married young, stay married. My first boss said the way to stay rich in life is to not get divorced, but keep your schmeckel in your pants and don't go to house parties. All you kids out there.
But what do you? It's like when you're young, you got money, you're in college. This is what you do. How do you avoid something? Because don't forget, he's in the NFL. This thing happened years before, and somebody said, just a random says, "This happened to me," and it's like, "What are you talking about? I wasn't even there at that time." That type of thing happens. Like,
it's crazy. You've got to live your life as though people are going to, view you as a target or as an opportunity later on. It's wild. But the thing is this: at some point, companies and people have to have the courage to say, okay, the person's getting sued. Setting aside extremely compelling, unproven evidence, we'll let that play out, and we're going to let this guy live his life in the meantime, because otherwise, it's a pre-conviction on accusation alone.
Well, I'm surprised that I really hope, especially in colleges, especially like with athletes, I'm surprised there aren't. I hope there are people going around saying, like, look, you don't go, like, not saying you have to live like a monk and read the Greek classics every night, but, things have to be very controlled, very restricted. And because that's the only way you can get around all this stuff.
Well, look, as the woman on this panel, I'm just going to go ahead and say there's been a lot of like public commentary and stuff about how feminism and the hookup culture and so forth has really not served women. I'm going to go ahead and use these as examples of how it really doesn't serve men either. And that while, perhaps on the surface, okay, a lot of easily accessible sex is something that men would like. The problem is that these are the type of women that you attract, okay? If you are engaging in transactional sex, you will get transactional women. And so, yes, they will use you, they will hoax you, they will do this type of thing. This is the trade-off. And men just need to understand that and think very carefully about the types of relationships they're choosing.
But the problem with this guy didn't even do anything. It's not like he had sex with the person and did.
Matt Ariza, I will grant you. Yes, I agree.
Stay home, kids. Stay home.
but still, it's almost to the point where, like, any of that stuff's happening in the house, you need to be running out of there like your hair's on fire. So it's,
just like to make sure you're not even alleged, because if you're alleged, it's you're done.
Parcheesi's about as risky as it should get at this point.
Well, it's going to sound crazy because it is, but have cameras in houses, and so that you can easily go back to CCTV footage and outside of it's nuts. It's nuts.
But because we're lawyers, and I have to make this stupid statement because there's going to be somebody said they didn't say this, and that means listen. We are not saying that these type of things don't happen. We know that women are assaulted. It happens all the time. It is a true statement. But what we're saying is that in some instances, you have to deal with the facts and not just deal with the emotions about it. We're looking at the facts of this and these stories. If people stopped and judged the facts for what they were, then they wouldn't have made these ridiculous conclusions. Because just to have someone who's totally innocent, someone who wasn't even there, the Johnny Depp issue, the Trevor Bauer issue, if people would have evaluated the facts, then these people wouldn't have lost their jobs, millions of dollars. And that's wrong because these people were innocent of these claims. Does that make sense?
Curb Your Enthusiasm did a great job in lampooning this, where he was going on a date and they were like, and he's like, we're video recording everything that we're doing here. And he's sitting next to the girl. He's like, I'm going to raise my arm and put it behind you on the couch now. If that is okay with you. And she says, I consent to that. That is like, and step by step, everything they're doing through their entire.
Well, but also it has.
The thing is that's actually, I've got a whole video on that because I had a lot of people asking me about those contracts. Like, hey, I found this like consent to sexual activity contract online. Is that a good idea? And I'm like, if you were ever accused, that would convict you. The prosecution would love that document because it's like, oh, before you decided to engage in this, you thought you would be accused of sexual assault at the end of it? Huh, that's not usual. There's no jury that you should ever want that document to end up in front of. So,
and the reason it's useless also is because if she changes her mind 4 minutes after she signs it, so it's that her changing her mind is like no means no at that point.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help you at all.
You can't contract out of a woman's right to revoke consent. So you get absolutely nothing from doing this contract in the first place, except like you're saying, give up evidence that you're anticipating a claim.
Contract, and if they demand like 15 minutes of sexual activity and you only give 2, then they're going to sue you for fraud. I mean, it's a lose-lose.
Well, now let's jump over to the world of politics. We have the Trump guys who are following Trump. We got Trump Tried, Good Lawgic, and Viva, who are like right in the mix of this. So, guys, tell us what's going on with the world of the Trumpies.
I think Good Lawgic. You start with this. You've been following this week's defense of in the Trump New York case.
Yes. Well, the Trump New York case, he's in the middle of his defense right now. Over there, that's a civil trial with Judge Enrigan. They moved for a mistrial. The basis of their mistrial is that they're claiming that the nature of this judge's approach to this to this thing from the word go, and also the nature of his relationship with his clerk, who has this there is a very bizarre type of situation going between Judge Engoron and his clerk Alyssa Greenfield, and the judge has been very proactive in taking steps to restrict Donald Trump from being able to even talk about that publicly, which is very and the reason that Allison Greenfield, who's his chief clerk of his court, because every judge in New York has several clerks that work for them, and they'll usually have one who is like their main the head clerk of them all, and she literally sits on the bench next to him, same height, and they look like a king and queen on the throne. I've never seen any judge in New York do that. I've been in front of over 100 judges. I've never appeared in front of Judge Engoron before, and I couldn't get into the courtroom when I went down there. But I was watching from a viewing room. But they literally sit like a king and queen, and like you would picture, like Ferdinand and Isabella sitting there next to each other. That's how they sit, and she's passing notes to him, and she's someone who has contributed tons of money to the Democrats.
$3,300 in 2021, which is $3,300 is I presume a significant portion of a clerk's salary? I mean, maybe she gets paid.
I mean, I
150?
can't tell you. I haven't looked up what they make, but in 1 year she gave 3,300. I'm not sure it was last year.
She's doing okay.
Yeah, she's.
Well,
doing
actually,
okay.
what is a clerk? A New York clerk. What do they make? Let's see this here.
I mean, it's if I'm sure that they get increases. I would assume.
Yeah, she lives in New York City. She's
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's not. I don't even. I think 150,000 is way too much. So even if 100,000, that's a big portion of your salary. She's given money. The clerk is a total perv. I mean, Nate, I don't know if you want to bring up the tweet of the hashtag bonus torso photo, but the whole thing, the judge is a perv. He's been running an alumni website where he's been posting links to his rulings against Eric Trump, like seeking the approval and the what's the word? The opposite of admonishment would be the praise of his crowd.
Yeah.
His wife has been tweeting out from an account which I think might still be locked, shit posting against Alina Habba, Trump's lawyers, as she leaves the court. His son apparently is sitting in the courtroom. Joe, are you able to feel this one? His son Ian has been in the courtroom and apparently on the receiving end of nepotism coming from this judge.
Oh, I didn't see that. I was there. When I was there, I haven't seen that, but I will tell you, he put a gag order against him from being able to talk about it, and there are rules against a judge ever commenting about an ongoing case, and he's breached that left and right. I mean, you're correct. It's like he's seeking praise from the left for the way all the times that he punishes the Donald for gagging order, and it's like, and he's sitting there hamming for the cameras, like he's so excited about it. And then when he was exposed about how weird it was, he gagged and said, "You can't bring this up in a motion for a mistrial." And it's like, and they're like, "Your Honor, we have to bring this up." And he's like, "Don't do it, Chris." And they brought that up in this motion for a mistrial.
Nate, if you the gag order that Engoron had issued has been lifted by an appellate judge who raised free speech concerns. No poop Sherlock.
Well, I found this. This is the law clerk with Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, well, there's that too, but that's even the least of it. It's
yeah. I agree with you. That's not so. I mean, she got to meet a senator. I got to meet Ted Cruz this week when I went to the DC rally, and it's kind of a big deal when you get to. I'm not surprised she puts that up there. If you get to meet a senator, you sort of share that in social media. That's like kind of like that's a pretty normal reaction. So to me, that's not very telling, and I think that Donald is making a bigger deal out of that than probably it merits. It's much more disturbing that this woman who is so influential in an ongoing basis, literally on decision by decision. Like there'll be like a motion, like when they were arguing with the judge about this gag order, when they can move for a mistrial. Like at first he's like, "Don't do it, Chris," and then like she sort of like recognized that this is a complete breach of his rights, and that it was ridiculous what he was saying. And she passes him a note, and he's like, "All right, you could do it, but it can't be orally. It has to be on written motion," which is weird too. And he's so embarrassed by it. He changed court camera angles so that you wouldn't see her, because most people who are seeing it are in a viewing room, not in the room there with him. So we don't see her anymore on camera, even though she's sitting right next to him. And when he was asked about it, and when he's asked about the change of the court cameras, he's like, "I have no idea why they changed court camera angles."
It's worth mentioning, though, probably everybody already knows it. He's issued 2 fines under the gag order, 5,000, 10,000. An appellate judge just lifted the gag order, or temporarily lifted it. But the gag order is in the context of a trial which has no jury. And so it seeks only to prevent the parties from talking about the system itself. Nate, if you can bring up the tweet. This one doesn't have Judge Engeron's half-nude hashtag bonus torso selfie.
Are you sharing it?
Yeah, well, no, it's in the private chat.
Oh,
I don't know how
I got it.
Don't worry, it says this one is safe is the one. And this is what the judge has said. Like, everybody knows this already, but it's worth playing it over and over again. The judge is a partisan hack who has boasted about having the tools to do what he wants to do, be that interpreting the law or making the law. So it's
and that was another point they made, that it's you never see that the same person who who issues a gag order then becomes the complainer because he brought it up on his own. He ferreted out that, hey, on this occasion, you are the one that Donald spoke out outside the courtroom. That he basically, I see that he did it there. So I wrote the law, meaning I passed I'm the one who issued the gag order. I'm the one who's researching as the complainer that he violated my gag order. And now, so now I'm serving as the prosecutor in that sense. And now I'm going to pass judgment on that and find him guilty.
Listen to this, but also trigger warning. If you get upset by people, when this judge talks, it's the most annoying thing in the world.
Yes.
This is the bonus torso photo that they, it was the other tweet, but this is the bonus torso photo that in his alumni website, he's like, hey guys, check out all my Eric Trump rulings. I made him testify. I did this, I did that. Tell me how good I am. Hashtag, here's a bonus torso photo, unsolicited, to an alumni website, which in theory has anyone who's 16 years of age and older who graduated from whatever Westfield school it was. But go back to the other tweet that had the
video?
that had the video, yeah.
All right.
And you're going to hear this judge. This is just 1 minute of this 17-minute speech he gave. But listen to this.
All right.
I get a lot of what I do involves motions. These summary judgment motions I mentioned. And all right, am I following law or am I making law? Okay, I'm following law. I'm an impartial referee, but it's hard to factor out my own emotions. And I have tools. Somebody can say, well, Your Honor, you have to throw out this case because it's just like another case. Well, is it just like another case? What if the defendant was wearing a red sweater instead of blue sweater? Well, that's an extreme example. That wouldn't distinguish most cases, but
most cases.
The fact that do, maybe the education of somebody who supposedly entered into a contract would decide whether the contract was binding. I have a tool that I'll call
It's astonishing.
I'll call a tool called estoppel. Somebody makes an argument, and I say, you can't make that argument. You made a different argument 3 months ago in this case, or even in another case. So
that's about it. Nate, apparently the audio is cracking, says the chat.
Oh, are we sure it isn't just his weird?
No, there's a number.
That guy's very unpleasant to listen to.
Oh God, it's amazing. And this is not even the worst of it. At another point in this very same speech, he says, you know, juries get it wrong a lot. And I have tools. JNOV, judgment notwithstanding a verdict. I can bypass the jury verdict. I've done it twice. It's very controversial. He says, it's controversial. I'm going to say it even though I know I'm on camera. The dude's, it's a witch hunt. It's a political witch hunt. It's outrageous. And so you hear the judge say, I have estoppel. You can't raise that argument because you raised it here or in another case. And in this particular case, Engeron has not allowed or refused Trump to raise the argument of political witch hunt or political motivation of Letitia James, prevented him from raising the argument of, they called it the worthless clause about some disclaimer in his contracts. And so the judge has basically deprived Trump of raising a number of defenses just like that to get the summary judgment. And now we're hearing Joe's background.
I'll just tell you, I'm sorry about that. It's a leaf blower because there's a leaf blower outside. Is that what you're hearing?
Oh, it might be that.
It might
That's
be
what
it,
it sounded like. It sounded like a vacuum at first.
A leaf blower? Where are you, Joe?
There's like 3 doors down. There's a leaf blower. I couldn't believe that that's what you guys are picking up.
You guys still have leaves in New York?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say here in Edmonton, you're not gonna see leaves. It's,
I don't know, maybe it's like my
maybe.
actual audio. Maybe it's my actual audio. Like I hear a leaf blower, but maybe you guys are hearing something more.
No,
if
it's
you
gone
want,
now, though. We don't hear anything now, though.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine. But what's most disconcerting about this, really, as far as I'm saying, speaking as a practicing New York attorney, what's most disturbing about this is far beyond this case, which this case is obviously incredibly significant on a national scene, is the judge's the way the judge talks, and I have to be very careful because I'm a practicing New York attorney and he's a New York judge. It's very different than if he's from
he's a hack, Joe. I'll say it for you. He's a hack, a dishonest political hack. Okay.
I'll say it, Joe. Don't worry.
No, but what the real point I'm getting at is the fact that he has so much hubris that he can say these things out loud, be posting them online. It reflects an attitude he has that he has a fiefdom that will never be challenged by his overseers. Like he's like, no, I can even say this stuff out loud without fear of repercussion. That is a terrifying statement about how judges view themselves, and it makes me question whether there are other judges who not only perhaps have leanings one way or another, and in New York, certainly New York City, they one would imagine that most of them, you have to be Democrat in order to get elected in New York. Our judges are all elected. If you're a Republican, you will never win, never, because no one who's voting knows anything about the judges. They just vote by party. So you have to win your nomination for the seat. Most of the time, they run unopposed, and it's very terrifying to think that once they get in there, that they feel like they have a fiefdom, that they can literally say, well, this guy has a blue sweater or a red sweater, or this guy is dealing with someone who went to 2 years of college as opposed to 1 year of college, and that's why now I can try and find some ridiculous basis to distinguish my determinations based on how I feel about the litigants. That's a terrifying statement, that they're so arrogant and feel like I can do whatever I want and I will never be challenged by those who have an ability to issue some sort of censure or punish me in any way, shape, or form. That's a terrifying feeling as a practitioner.
I think there's a lot more judges out there that think that than say it. I would say not all judges, but a very heavy minority or majority of judges think that about themselves and think of that position, and they just don't say it.
Right. You're right, David. Everything you're saying is right. But even if they think that, the fact that he has the balls to say it is such a reflection of the fact that it's so almost definitely true, right? Because if he thought for a second that he would face any sort of repercussion, he would never say it out loud. Right? You would never, there's certain things you might think about your boss. You would never say it to your boss because you feel like if he has the cojones to do anything, you're going to get fired. You're going to get some sort of punishment. But it's like, the fact that he's so unafraid, so unabashed, he's going out there on social media, he's sharing stuff, and he's basically laughing about how he's destroying Trump and how he's going after Trump. And he's not worried that anyone's going to look at him and say, well, you can't do that. What the hell are you even thinking? And that's a reflection as to really the lack of oversight that these judges have. That's how it makes me feel. I don't know that that's true. I'm simply saying that that's how it makes me question. I'm sure it makes many other people question the lack of oversight that these judges know that they have and they know that they can get away with. And to me, that's a far more terrifying thing about the ability to find justice. And you're saying it's in other states also. That's a very sad commentary, in my opinion, about the state of our judiciary.
Yeah, well, it's definitely true in Michigan. I don't know about all states, but it sounds like it's true in New York. But there's plenty of judges in Michigan that have, we call it like black robe fever or something along those lines. And you can kind of get a sense of it. Mm-hmm. There are a handful that say it publicly. And, the Supreme Court Administration Office tries to rein them in a little bit, but there's not much they think they can do anyways. But it's a problem.
But like here in New York, the judges are elected, but they're elected because the Democrats have total control over who gets on the ballot. So you're only going to get a certain type of judge to even get on the ballot to be elected. So it's not really an election. And we have I used to be in New York, but in New York, there was a lot of corruption in terms of not the races in the election, but actually who actually even made it to the ballot to be elected. So you'd have to pay the party bosses off or whatever to just get in the ballot, because whoever got in the ballot as a Democrat, you automatically won. So I think, you have a confluence of factors here. New York is heavily anti-Trump. You got this whole anger toward him. And then you have this judge who essentially is doing what the public there wants him to do. And let's talk about the AG. You got the AG against him. You got the judge against him. You got, it's literally that. And he's from New York, which even makes it even worse. So I don't know how you avoid this problem unless you're talking about having unelected judges. But then this is not a guy I'd want to give a lifetime appointment to. Not by any means, right? I'm kind of glad he's only in there for 5-6 years.
Well, the thing is with unelected judges, you get the same problem. It's just now your corruption's at whatever, like legislative board or, board the governor's office has that now gets corrupted. So it doesn't change anything, I think, if you do it that way.
Yeah, like this thing, shouldn't extremists be kept off the ballot? But if the party bosses decide who gets on the ballot, then they're going to be on the ballot, and they get paid. to be on the
Define
ballot, so-
extremist.
Well, that too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, well, it seems like Trump is got some problems.
On the other hand, the other cases that he's doing really well in is these multiple cases across the country relating to efforts to keep him off the ballot, which the cases should never be started, obviously, at all. But across the country, we've seen now in Minnesota, Michigan, Arizona, and Colorado that there, I'm sure there are other states to follow. There have been these efforts to say that he should be kept off the ballot. And a lot of people feel like, well, even if you keep him off the ballot, there'll be so many write-ins for him that he'll be able to win. If he's kept off the ballot, they will reject, because they say he's ineligible, they'll reject any write-ins. So you're basically, so that workaround would be ineffective. And he's getting, so far, he's gotten wins in varying degrees. So in Minnesota, he got a win in the sense that they said, well, right now we're dealing with the primary. The Minnesota Supreme Court feel we don't have the authority, and the Secretary of State does not have the authority to intervene as to who a party decides to put on their ballot. So we're rejecting the application for now. And if he ends up winning the nomination, it seems like they'll revisit it at that point. And I think that there was a little bit of, in my opinion, cowardice. And perhaps they're looking to see what other states do because they knew that other states were going to be facing this challenge. But in Colorado, he had a 6-day trial, and the Judge Wallace in that case, which I was live streaming every minute of that trial, and Judge Wallace is supposed to be issuing a decision within 48 hours. It's supposed to come down by this evening. She's supposed to, and she could get an extension, but it's supposed to. David's correct.
As of yesterday, they were reporting it was going to be issued today, but she's going to come down the same way they came down in was it New Hampshire? Which one?
Minnesota, I think you're talking about.
Minnesota,
yeah,
right.
Minnesota. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of issues with her that she donated money to an organization that wanted to censure the Colorado GOP for allowing him to participate, and that there was a motion for her to recuse herself, which she rejected, and she's like, no, I didn't know much about that donation. I think we covered that last week with when I was talking with Eric, but she started off certainly seeming to strongly lean toward granting this petitioner's application to have him removed. During the course of the trial, at least in her demeanor, she certainly seems a lot more amenable toward the Trump position and recognizing that she'd be walking into some really new ground here as a first-year judge. She just got appointed in January of this year, that she should be walking into some. She should be making brand new law for the first time in American history in trying to use Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to keep him off the ballot. And she seems to like Scott Gessel, the attorney, who's a great attorney for Trump. He's one of the best attorneys I've seen Trump put out there. He's been very effective in being.
I haven't been
affable
following
and
it probably
intelligent.
as much as I should because I've had a couple of trials and real life stuff. But is this the same case that there were some issues with people streaming? Is that the same judge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure.
There was a moment when I was streaming and I had uncivil law.
Oh God! And you thought it was you?
Yeah, Colorado.
I thought she where the petitioners started complaining that someone was restreaming the trial without permission, and they asked her to basically look in the camera into my soul and tell me stop. That you're breaking Colorado the rules of the court if you're restreaming the show without our authority.
Well, Joe, did you see that I had on Ashley Epp, who was the actual person they were talking about?
Yeah. So they were talking about Ashley Epp, and apparently, so you can tell us the background of that, because apparently she's been conflicting with the petitioners in the past, right?
She has been the object of Ashley Epp. Hold on, there was an organization. Either way, Ashley Epp is the object of a lawsuit in Colorado, alleged voter intimidation, because they were canvassing after the election to try to, I think, build evidence of voter impropriety. And they were going door to door. And then some activist groups said that that's voter intimidation under the KKK law. And so she's been an activist that has been the object or on the radar of the judge, the prosecutor, the legal system there. And so she was live streaming this, but not her directly. It was on Badlands Media, which is a legit media outlet, live streaming, commentating. And apparently Ashley Epp, who was the face commentating, but not under her name, not anything that was known. Although it's known, but like she wasn't doing it on her own channel under her own name. She was doing it through Badlands. Commentating, apparently she had some things to say that they didn't like very much. And so the prosecutor, I say the prosecutor, but is it a prosecutor? And that is the civil case to keep on. Whoever the attorneys are who know her, don't like her, the judge knows her, doesn't like her. They came out and said, Ashley Epp. And identified her by name, saying she's the one broadcasting this, and she's not allowed, even though they were allowed because it was a broad. You were allowed to republish or restream and commentate. So they outed her by name, which is something of somewhat intimidating. If Joe thought Joe was scared when they thought he was talking with them, when you hear your name on a live broadcast,
I'm sure.
And so she explained it. It's like it's.
I was kind of hoping she would identify me. But here's and this is I'm curious if I can get opinions from you guys about this. I mean, the rules of a court. If this was in New York and the judge says you're not allowed to do this, I think that technically is something that I could, in theory, get into some. There could be legal repercussions for me if I were to violate that, because they certainly have jurisdiction over me. I don't think that this judge has any jurisdiction over me. This Colorado judge Wallace.
I don't think so
over me.
No, there's no criminal or any jurisdiction over you from Colorado. I don't think the long arm of the state reaches that long. Also, my whole thought was from my understanding of the laws of Colorado is that once they decided that they were going to broadcast this, then after that, the court really doesn't have a say going forward, especially if it's a pooled media feed kind of thing.
But here's the question though, because there were two feeds, and the C-SPAN had their own individual feed, and they had obviously gotten approval from the court, and then the court has its own feed. And I was actually thinking, like, if the court's feed, now I'm purposefully availing myself of their feed. I'm wondering if for purposes of this incident, I'm purposefully availing myself and thereby could be making myself exposed to their jurisdiction with respect to my use of the court's own feed. So I'm wondering what you guys think about that, whether that's a legitimate concern. Their audio was infinitely better than C-SPAN. C-SPAN did a terrible job covering. It was awful. And the court feed was really superior. So that's my question is, do you think that by using the court feed, I'm now making myself subjecting myself to the jurisdiction of Colorado with respect to this particular incident?
I want to say, I don't have a legal theory in my mind. I don't have a law to cite to or anything like this. But I would just think that if that were the case, there'd be so many other issues with it. Like right now, are we availing ourselves to the California jurisdiction because we're streaming through YouTube? That doesn't make logical sense to me, even though, they're based there. Yeah. And so,
but hold on, just with YouTube though, in that terms of service, they do have when you sign up that they have a what's it called, a form selection clause.
Sure,
so you are doing your form in.
But imagine I don't have my own.
I think
YouTube
that's for
channel,
pursuing
and I'm just
YouTube.
on panel.
Yeah.
But imagine I don't have a I don't have a YouTube account. I'm just some idiot that. Well, I am an idiot, but brought up on camera. Anyways, I don't have a contract with YouTube. I'm not availing myself to the California jurisdiction just because it's not streaming through YouTube. Yeah, and so if you take it to its logical conclusion, I don't think that just by availing yourself to the WebEx or Zoom or whatever court feed, I don't think that's enough. What I will say, though, in addition to that, is that the local court rules, the ethic rules that govern attorneys, right? Every state has their own. In Michigan, the ethics rules that we have, there would be an argument to be had that if I did violate a law in another state, I could face sanctions from my licensing standpoint. But that would again presume that I'm violating a law of that other state. So I think you're safe all around, but I don't have any legal support at my fingertips to talk about that.
Well, while I have you here on topic, when I was in New York, they would not allow me to use my phone in the courtroom. And I actually had a big incident where I fought with them about my rights to use my phone to tweet out and cover the trial. And they say, since you're not media, and the court and the Judge Engeron here has put a restriction on who can use phones here, and not transmitting this trial out, you are not trusted to we're afraid that you're going to break his order, so we're making you put your phone away. And I'm like, I'm a New York attorney, I'm an officer of the court, I'm going to follow the rules of the court. You're saying you trust the media? Do you trust the media? Bullshit. And you don't trust you don't trust your own court, the officers of the court, to uphold the rule of the court while sitting in the courtroom? That's what you think is going to happen? That's the fear? And I wrote a letter to the guy overseas. I haven't heard back from him yet. I didn't get a chance to get down to the courtroom today, but this week, since I sent that letter, I haven't heard hide nor hair from them. But I think it's outrageously humiliating for New York State, that for a judge to say, I don't trust officers of the court to uphold rules of the court here, and that I'm going to restream. Can you imagine that, Nick? Can you imagine breaking the rules of the court and saying, I'm going to restream it, even though this judge here said I can't?
No, but the funny thing is that whenever I go to court, even here in Texas, if I go to a courtroom, there's usually, for attorneys, there's a lot more latitude, right?
Yes!
Because they know you're an officer of the court. You sit in you can sit in front, so type of thing. So it's just funny for me to hear that you were actually a New York attorney in the New York court. You can't do this even, but do you have a card with you? Have your bar card or anything like that? Or
yeah, I showed them my bar card.
Yeah, so I don't know, because every time because even going into court, if you show them your card, you get the
you bypass you need that card, and it's a hassle to get that card. I mean, you have to go jumping through hoops to get your bar card, but it's so important because you bypass security and save yourself like 20 minutes every time you walk back into the courtroom of having to go through security. So yeah, I mean, I actually applied for a press card, because under New York rules for New York media, I believe I qualify. You just have to report on some New York ongoing thing to be considered media. But this is part of the institution protecting that only the people we sanction and like are the ones who can actually report on things that any human should be allowed to report on if they can,
That's what's alarming to me, Joe, is they've created the media as a title of nobility now, and they're affording them special privileges. What the hell is that? That is not in the First Amendment.
Yes.
I was actually quite surprised here in Alberta. I went and submitted the application to be considered media in the local courts, and they're just like, so the first thing is they were like, you need a business card. And I had business cards for business, but not for like the YouTube channel. So I went and ended up having to make like YouTube business cards.
That's great.
And so then it was like, okay, you're approved. And I was like, really?
The antiquated old guard that thinks like, do you have a website and a business card? Do you have a fax line, Ian? You have to have a fax line.
Fax machine.
Apparently the only reason is that when I go in, I'm supposed to actually give them a business card so that they know how to chase me down if I break the rules.
Have they asked you to cut your hair yet, hippie?
They have not. That's allowed.
Let me take down some of these super chats of the fans who have generously given us some funds. They're acknowledged by us reading their super chats. This is from Mary that says, yeah, but they gave Deshaun Watson a huge contract. Makes me so angry. But that was from when we were talking about the Matt Ariza case when he was canceled because
what happened to Deshaun? Was
Deshaun Watson? He had a whole bunch of allegations, but the difference with Deshaun is he's a quarterback and he's a lot more valuable. So those allegations kind of petered out, and those were contracts.
That was I want to be clear.
He sat out a lot of the season for that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. Did Deshaun do it? I don't. This is something that's going to get me in trouble. I know, and Mary is a huge supporter of my show, but I got to be real on this. I covered the Deshaun Watson story a long time ago. Did he do any of these things? Or a bunch of women who all saw, hey, he has this accusation, and I've been a massage therapist. I can jump on board with that also. I honestly do not know. I have no idea. But what I do know is this. We all know there's a famous statement that a prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich, right?
Yes, correct.
And they tried twice to indict him and could not get an indictment because their evidence is so thin. Or it could, and they tried in two different jurisdictions because they couldn't get an indictment on him. So that's how thin the evidence against him is. Now, a lot of people think where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's like 18 different women who say he touched them inappropriately in a massage. Me personally, I've never had a massage. I've never paid for a massage from a woman. I have no idea what. I know there's a lot of touching that's supposed to be happening.
You never paid for a massage from a woman is an interesting qualification.
Or dude.
Or no, Joe talks
dude.
about
I've never had a professional massage.
Joe, you've talked to those stories about when you were going.
Hold on, you never had a professional massage. Have you had amateur massages?
No, you're in with a whole bunch of lawyers, so you know.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm 19. I'm looking to pay for college.
No, I was just saying. I don't know how touching is. There's a lot of touching that's happening there. I mean, that's the whole point to a massage, right?
Yeah,
so
it's gross. It's gross. I don't even like. Well, some people think this is crazy. I don't like feeling my wife's skin on skin contact when I'm trying to sleep. It's like a very But hold on one second.
That's a problem.
What's that? I know it's crazy. It is actually crazy. No, the guy it was Michael Vick, right? That they gave a huge contract to after his dogfighting stuff. That there's an example
Eagles,
where
Eagles brought him back.
Yeah, there's an issue where I'm not about cancel culture. I'm just about justice. And when you mess with dogs, then I have a bit of an issue. That would be one where I would have moral issues. But all the other ones, canceling on accusation alone.
Michael Vick served his time. He
Yeah,
paid
he served
his
his
penance.
time.
He paid his debt to society. You have to welcome people back into society.
That's where I was going to go. Exactly. What he did was awful, terrible, terrible. He literally went through hell. And also exactly what Andrea said. I mean, 18 months of like community service and really and apologies and saying, oh my God, it was so terrible, so wrong, and becoming like a public advocate against animal abuse.
Yeah,
so
I can. This would be one of those cases where I can appreciate my own bias, where I believe, yes, I agree, rehabilitate, and they serve their time. You can't hold it against them forever. Except when it comes to torturing dogs. I'm sorry, that's not like a momentary lapse of reason. That's for the rest of it. That's not something like, oh crap, I got drunk and did something stupid. That's lack of respect for life. And maybe you can learn your lesson, maybe. So I can appreciate, maybe I'm willing to punish Michael Vick despite having served this time where it is maybe not immoral, but not lawful. But yeah, that.
Can I tell you something
funny?
funny?
Let me hold on, Joe. Let me pay these bills for Eric real quick, and then we can talk for the next 15 minutes. Because it seems like everyone is going to stop us. All right, here's another one, which I'm hoping it doesn't stop us too far. Now that President Biden has been exonerated in the classified documents case, which is true, will Trump be held accountable for mishandling? No one is above the law.
He wasn't exonerated. We're not doing anything.
They're going. Well, he's as president now, to be fit, just to be technically fair. As president right now, you can't even charge him anything right now because he has sovereign immunity. After he leaves the presidency, then you may be able to get him. But even with that, I think Trump is going to trial. I think in May. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
This one. Shouldn't extremists be kept off the ballot? We answered that one when we were talking about the
want
judge.
Extremists for due process, extremists for the Bill of Rights on my ballot. That's who I want.
That's true. Fair point. Which reason?
More to the point,
President...
I don't want the government choosing who does and doesn't get to vote and who doesn't get to be on the ballot. I'm a big believer that so Canada, you can vote with a criminal record. You can vote while you're serving your sentence. So quite literally, people vote in prison. And I think that's a better system because you don't want there to be an incentive that use the criminal justice system to target your political enemies to remove them from the ballots or remove them from the, so.
Well, that's actually something that happened here in the South during the Jim Crow era, where they would essentially get people on felonies and remove their right to vote because that was an issue. Though it has happened in the past, obviously, and I think some of the states here are trying to change that. I think Virginia has recently changed that, where if you have a felony, you can now still vote. So it's what they call it, right? Reinstating people's rights, right? It's like a tongue twister. But I'm surprised. So in Canada, it's as a right. Even if you're convicted as a felony, you still have your right to vote.
Yeah, you can never lose your right to vote in Canada, as far as I know, right?
That's correct. All right, there's one exception, which is if you are convicted of election fraud related things, then, but it has to be like really specific, like you were stuffing ballot boxes. But if you're convicted of like 6 murders, they'll come to your cell and be like, so here's your ballot. And that's if you've got enough people in jail that actually affects things in any meaningful way,
you got
then
bigger
that's
social
a problem.
problems.
Well, we have like what, 3 million people in jail, so that could swing an election. We have millions of people in jail.
Alpha Fox noticed I was smelling the dog not because it smelled bad. He smells like he might have been eating perfume. Have you been eating perfume or something you shouldn't have been eating?
Oh wow, he looks better.
Let me get these last 2 super chats. Which reason will presidential election 2024 challenges be thrown out for? Standing, mootness, latches, or ripeness? I think it may be all 4.
I was going to say yes is the answer.
Yeah. And it's a question. People called Obama a war criminal for collateral damage. That was when he was bombing after Bush left. Why not with Israel?
Well, first
no
of all,
due process. Hold on. Before we even start speaking about Israel, I got to do the disclaimer. I hate this topic because no matter what you say, it's either the evil Israelis or the evil Palestinians. No matter who you're with, you're going to be.
No, but let's just first of all, attack the premise of the question. Who the heck is not calling Netanyahu a war criminal? They've been calling him a war criminal for 2 decades.
Well, I think they said Obama and
no, but they said why not with Israel? The idea is like that people call Obama a war criminal, but not Israel. People call Israel war criminals all the time. So
the international, criminal court has not called anybody a war criminal. So like people can say anything. What does this even mean?
I might have a political neutral. I might have a politically neutral response here in that war is led by the government and all the people suffer. There are casualties, both innocent and non-innocent, on both sides of every conflict. But for the government, I feel like the vast majority of the people in those countries would not be against each other and would not be suffering the way they are. I mean, that's just a fundamental fact of war, period. It doesn't matter where you put the location of the war. That is just a fundamental fact. It's just going to happen.
But I do think sometimes people are trying to make this too simplistic in terms of Hamas is the government of the Gaza Strip. And the government is what attacked Israel. So generally, if your government, then we also know Hamas particularly puts all their weapons and strategic places in hospitals, in schools,
I was trying not to pick sides, Nate.
I'm not trying to pick sides, but those are just truths, right? I'm not saying anything that's not true. We know that to be a truth. So if you're trying to stop those people from attacking you and they're putting their things there, then obviously you're going to get more collateral damage. But then it's kind of you're in this weird bind because it's like, well, I got collateral damage, but then I'm not really attacking. It's not like Israel's specifically attacking a hospital. They're attacking Hamas, who's putting their stuff in hospitals. So
I'll go back to Hiroshima and Nagasaki at the end of World War II. We did it. We needed to do it, in my opinion. It was a heavily industrialized cities. Those 2 cities. Yes, there were a ton of civilians that lost their lives, but it was a necessary evil. It just is the fact of war. And so if there's heavily industrialization, if there's war equipment around civilians, it happens.
Yeah, but I think also too it's
modern standards,
modern standards versus past standards. For instance, in Dresden in World War II, obviously that today would be a war crime. But
specifically
obviously
targeting civilians is a problem. Specifically targeting those kids at that music festival is a problem.
Yeah,
there's to my knowledge, there's no like military cache around there or anything. That was a specific target. That's a problem. There's a difference though when it's just a fact of collateral damage.
I have a question because I'm not super informed about the situation, so I'm hoping you guys can help me out. Palestinian citizens, are they free to leave the Gaza Strip?
No. Not without.
So this to me is a little bit of a problem in the kind of conventional warfare analysis, right?
Yeah.
Because the idea is you identify a target, people have the opportunity to be able to leave and not be victimized by that. And so the presumption is if you stay, you are aligning yourself with, the adversary. But that choice doesn't seem to be available.
It's available.
I don't think you can use conventional war analysis.
So you're blaming Egypt for not letting them in?
I am.
No, I'm
They
saying,
can
not
move
you,
away
not
from
you,
the-
not
No, no,
you.
she's
I'm just
way
saying
too
she's
general
honest.
target.
There are
Yeah,
too
she's-
many
I
things
wasn't-
that
I
you can
wasn't being
point to for
aggressive. I
why this
wasn't being
problem is
aggressive.
the way it is
Andrea.
now. I
Well,
mean,
hold on,
there's too many chains going back for
Well,
150 years.
Put a pin in the Egyptian, Lebanon question as to why they don't absorb them. As far as they're told, the argument is that they're being told to evacuate, go somewhere else within Gaza because that's where the operation is going to be. And some people say that's insufficient. Others say they are bombing the corridors as they tell them to flee. Others are saying Hamas is executing any Gazans who flee to keep them there for the human shield. So it's not that they're not being allowed to leave. They're being told to displace. And then the question is it fair to say displace to another part of Gaza while they level this part of Gaza or carry out operations there? But all this to say, one can bypass this entire question and just go to why do people call Obama a war criminal? One reason for which I understood was, on the one hand, extrajudicial executions of American citizens without any due process. And then the other one was, from what I understand, the drone strikes that killed civilians and killed people at weddings were never authorized in any formal war, which I think is one of the hurdles to get over in terms of like it being an act of war versus it being a war crime. And so you could address why Obama was probably legitimately called a war criminal, and then set aside the fact that people call Netanyahu a war criminal all the time. Colombia, I think, just filed charges. Another group is filing charges with the UN. So it happens all the time. The accusation goes around with everybody.
Yeah, but I would say the only president in my lifetime that's not been called a war criminal was Trump. Because he's the only one that didn't do anything, right? That's what I'm thinking.
Hold on, let me Google
one
that
was
name. Let me
called a war
Google.
criminal. Obama, like name one. Who, it's
Carter.
Carter. I was going to say Carter.
Carter
My
may have been
lifetime
one. Yeah,
could give me Carter.
Again, before my lifetime. No, sure, age.
And the point that I'll make also is that to the extent that we can recognize that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and there's some Palestinians, like Andrea correctly points out, who may be trapped in that situation. And I certainly wasn't trying to be hostile to you. I was making a philosophical point. But we certainly can see that their effort to root out Hamas is liberating those Palestinians from being run by a terrorist government. So, and in that sense, all the hate that Israel is getting for this collateral damage, which the numbers on that are being provided exclusively by the terrorist organization, which has every incentive to inflate those numbers. And I'm not saying that there definitely have been, people who have died who are not part of Hamas. What those numbers are, I don't think there's any way for any of us to actually know. But I think that it's a fair perspective to say that Israel is liberating those Palestinians who are under a terrorist reign from if they're successful in rooting out Hamas, so that they can actually have a healthy governance where they can actually have a flourishing place like Gaza was as recently as 17 years ago before Hamas came in, that they can come back to having a normal, healthy, happy life for themselves or their children or their grandchildren.
So that brings up a whole nother can of worms because they voted them in, right? They voted in Hamas.
Well,
That's what I was going to say.
How many
and it was
elections have there been
immediate.
since?
Yeah, so it's like,
I mean,
well,
there's plenty of people there who've never
voted,
never seen an election in their lives. So
it's just that situation is just a horrid. Yeah, but again, I think we should move on because next thing you know, this is going to be clipped and we're going to be everywhere. This guy is so. So thank you guys, and thank you for the super chats that have gotten us into this horrible conversation. So before we get out of here, because we have 5 or 6 minutes, let me go around the room real quick and just get with everyone. Just let me know where people can find you, what you're up to, and how everything has been going. So we'll start with Viva. Viva, where can the people find you, and what have you been doing?
Yes. Oh, you see that merch right there? VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com. Dude, I've just been going live every day, give or take. I might go live this afternoon because there's been more wonderful developments. The guy in California who pulled his gun to protect himself from the intruders has had his concealed carry permit revoked by the authorities.
Oh, wow.
There was another interesting follow-up on the story. So that's it. Whatever is popular, but whatever I'm interested in for the day, which are very different things depending on the day. Everyone knows what. Viva Frei on Rumble, VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com on Locals, the Viva Frei for Viva Unfiltered on Twitter.
Woo! Hey, Andrea, two things. Number one, Trevor Bauer, I hope you do a video on it, and two, the P. Diddy case, because I would love to hear your perspective on it. But let the people know who you are and tell them what you're up to.
Yeah, so I'm A Burkhart Law on Twitter and YouTube. I have to confess, my YouTube has been very inactive lately. I've just been super busy with a lot of stuff to do. So I've had a lot more of my content out there on Twitter than on YouTube. But yeah, like Viva, I kind of just look at cases that capture my interest. They may or may not be what's popular at any point in time. I like to deep dive stuff. I like to get into like the theory and the techniques of trial work and things like that as well. So yeah, Nate, I did take a look at the Cassie Ventura case versus Sean Combs, and definitely have some thoughts about that. So I'll probably be sharing those thoughts. I'd say look first on Twitter, but if I can get a chance to get something out on YouTube, I will do that.
So I would just last question on that case. Is it looking more like, because that case has the ability to go to like Johnny Depp stats because he's of his fame. Do you think it's looking like a Johnny Depp, or is it looking more like a I don't know as of yet?
I don't think we know as of yet. I think my personal read on it is that I'll just say it frankly, this is a very poorly drafted complaint.
Joe, I know we keep you to the end, but I'm gonna let you go now but Joe, be quick about it. Joe, be quick about it. We only got like 5 minutes left. But Joe, let people know what you're doing, especially the whole Trump trial thing, because I think it's extremely fascinating. Let people know what you're doing now, and where can they find you? I'm Joe. I do what I do, and how I do it. All right, Joe. Good logic.
I do what I do.
I have a new channel now called Trump Trial, which is what you see in my name here, which is dedicated. Which is dedicated towards covering all these different legal issues, civil and criminal, and that relate to him or the 24 election. I plan on using it for the 24 election. And really, I'm not going to kid you. I chose the name because I figured that people use YouTube as a search engine, and a lot of people over the next year I anticipate are going to be looking up Trump trial. And I felt like I want to have one corner of the internet where I'm going to leave exclusively dedicated to that. And I urge you guys to check it out. I plan on starting to post videos there next week. So,
and plus, when that gets demonetized, at least it's not your regular channel.
Joe, I was going to say, if you haven't done it yet, you might be adopting a bad strategy in that it doesn't just, the algorithm doesn't pick up the name of the channel, but the video itself. So you can get that same traffic generated if you put it on your main channel. I wouldn't start a second channel if I were you. But
really?
Yeah.
It's already there.
I know, but if it's got no content, keep it there, or don't make it unlisted. But I would put the Trump stuff on your main channel because it picks up the text from the videos. It doesn't just go by the name of the channel.
My channel is so deeply suppressed by the algorithm that I'm like, you know what? If I can start fresh on this and find some new viewers to bring over to my main channel.
That's one, but now I'll get you really paranoid about this. That might be true, but if you're linking both channels to the same bank account, they're probably just going to suppress the second one anyhow.
That's true. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Well, let me move over to Sean. While Joe thinks about his suppression of linking his guests to the same account. Sean, potentially criminal. Where can people find you, and what you got going on?
You can find me on YouTube at Potentially Criminal. You can find me, surprisingly, I'm still on Twitch. Haven't gotten kicked off there yet. I do a weekly show every Thursday at 9:30 Eastern Time, the best time zone, not Central Time. And yeah, I've actually got a couple of videos I'm working on trying to put out. But other than that, I probably might be going live tonight or tomorrow night just to hang out. Probably be here on YouTube for a little bit, but nothing special right now. Just got some trying to get caught up on the real world stuff. So
Amen
that's it
to
for
that,
now.
brother. Well, listen, I love making law simple, and we're going right to the guy who literally makes the law simple. Tell us what Michigan, the Michigan love for my people in Michigan. So tell us what's going on. What you got going out?
Yeah, so I just finished up the trial of Caitlin Armstrong. That's the love triangle murder case. But coming up, I've got some updates on James and Jennifer Crumbley, they're out of Oakland County, Michigan. That's the parents of the Oxford school shooter. They're being criminally charged with involuntary manslaughter. So if you didn't know, because their son shot up a school, it's kind of a novel case. And that's actually what got me into the whole YouTubing live stuff to begin with. So we have an update on that case. It's set to start January 23rd. And then they just recently bifurcated the cases. So either mom or father is going to go on the 23rd, but I plan on having my own cameras in the courtroom for that. It's the county that I practice, that I reside in. And so I'm going to have some updates on that. I've also been doing some stuff on Turtle Boy. If you don't know Turtle Boy, he is the YouTuber blogger that's been covering the Karen Reed case heavily in Canton, Massachusetts. And he was charged criminally with intimidating witnesses because of his YouTube and blogging commentary on the Karen Reed case. So I'm going to be doing some more on that. And in fact, one of the arguments that his attorney made a couple weeks ago in trial was like, this is new. You've never tried to use this witness intimidation law against a member of the media. You've always used it for like family members or the defendant themselves. And now, since that attorney made that argument, they're going around to Karen Reed protesters. The police are saying, you got to shut this down because you're intimidating the witnesses in this case. So now they're going after protesters that are standing on a street. So I'm going to be talking about that coming up. So check it out, Making Law Simple right there.
So, hey, David, I have a quick question. Did the mom and the dad, did they ask to have it split, or how did that end up getting split out?
Yeah, so apparently the prosecutor has presented a new witness list that contained 2 individuals from Florida. I don't know all the details yet. I did get the documents, but I haven't read through it. But apparently those 2 witnesses from Florida caused a rift between the parents. So James Crumbly filed a motion to bifurcate the case, presumably strategically. I've got all the documents. I'm going to go over them and do a stream on it. And I'm not sure exactly what's going down. What I suspect is that it might have been sort of a emotional affair or something online. That's what I suspect, but it's pure speculation. But for some reason, these 2 new witnesses has caused a rift between the parties, and they asked to bifurcate the case.
Oh, wow. Wow. It's crazy. It's so fascinating how everyone's going over, because it's like you want to consume it all, but you just don't have enough time in a day to get to it. Runkle, right. Not least by any means. So you just had the fantastic stream for the charity. You guys raised over $100,000 for the charity. You know,
Yep.
Congratulations to that. And I know you're doing some great stuff. So I'll let you take it. What's going on?
So I'm following up with the Rust trial. There were just some videos released, and I want to go over those. And just because people have been wondering, like, why would they be showing these videos to the grand jury? And it's like, well, because he's pretty sloppy with the guns, but he's also at the same time making it very clear that he's aware of certain safety things. Like when he's like, oh, I don't want you, like, you need to move because I don't want you in my line of fire. It's like, so you knew you shouldn't be pointing a trigger at the camera woman and blowing a hole through her.
He said that during the Stephanopoulos interview. I knew you never point a gun at a person.
Yeah. It's one of my first videos.
So all of this, I mean, a movie set is actually one of the worst places to commit a crime because everything is being filmed. So, you know, we'll talk about that. There's also a case that just happened here. They haven't put the written decision out yet, so I'm waiting for that. But it's a federal court case where they actually struck down the ban on single-use plastics. So the federal government's been trying to ban like plastic straws, plastic bags, basically just making everything miserable because those paper straws suck. It's like drinking a beverage through a rolled up newspaper. And so the government has just suffered a loss there because the court said, hey, that's outside of your jurisdiction. They tried to do it through this like end run around properly legislating. And this government has been really big on that sort of maneuver. And now the court is going, not so much. So I'm going to cover that as well, just because, I mean, we always love to see when Trudeau falls on his face, but this is also kind of a victory for the process of how laws should come to be, and for the notion that maybe the prime minister ought not to be sort of a king. So yeah, I'm going to cover that. I'm just waiting for that written decision to come out. So yeah.
All right.
That's all good stuff.
Well, listen, if you people, we got like 1,200 people in here. If you guys haven't subscribed to everybody and are not interested in this stuff, then I don't know why the hell you're here. But don't forget, but we are here every Friday. I keep saying Thursday. Every Friday at 12 with another new panel next week, Friday. Eric will be back. But right now we race swaps, so you know, just because we had to check those boxes. So right now I'm here in his stead. So my name is Eric Hunley for the panel. I will see you guys next week, Friday.
Bye, everybody.